Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
Pamela Eyring, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be with you.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from South Carolina. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about 5 ways to develop professional etiquette in your organization to innovate teams. This is a really interesting topic to me. It's one that I don't think about all that often, frankly. And so I think I'm really going to learn a lot from this conversation. I look forward to picking your brain a little bit and trying to better understand this idea of etiquette around innovation. Innovation is something I think a lot about. I just haven't really thought about the tie-in between etiquette and innovation. So I think it'll be a really fun conversation. As we get started, I wanted to share Pamela's bio with everybody. Pamela Eyring is president and owner of the Protocol School of Washington, an accredited school focusing on international protocol, business etiquette, and communication skills training. With more than 4 decades of public and private sector experience in operational protocol and educational development, Pamela has extensive knowledge of U.S. and international practices and is a global thought leader in the etiquette and protocol industry. Again, I think that's fascinating. As someone who's traveled extensively abroad, and I've worked in many other countries and travel for both work and pleasure, consulting, etc. I can recognize how important it is to understand etiquette, to understand cultural differences and norms. All of that's vital. So we're going to unpack all this together. Pamela, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
Well, John, just, when you say 4 decades, I realize that how my maturity has increased. And in this area, I've spent 19 years just owning the Protocol School of Washington and teaching abroad and, of course, domestically. And prior to that, I was in the Air Force as a civilian employee for 23 years. So I worked for high-level officials and, really watched diplomacy at its best. And, back then we learned a lot about protocol and business etiquette and professionalism, by others, mentors, people that were maybe unofficial mentors, but people that would coach us for success or productivity. And of course, HR, we're always looking for efficiencies and productivity and innovation and taking care of our teams. And this is where I think, my background really came to play, and I used all that experience and then applying it to the Protocol School of Washington to help people build better business relationships.
I love that. And I think as we think about all of our experiences, we live, in an increasingly globalized world. So it's smaller and smaller, right? I think we're connecting more and more. And so whether or not you're traveling abroad, whether or not you're connecting with people from other parts of the world physically, we're all connecting virtually. And if you weren't doing it pre-pandemic, you're certainly doing it now. Sure. Now, also, I should note that it doesn't have to be international differences, right? It doesn't have to be international norms, cultural differences, and international etiquette. No. I mean, just talking about business etiquette and things like that here in the US or regional differences or things like that. There's just so many differences like we just have to be aware of. Like I'm just thinking about here in Utah where I'm at, and there are not big but small differences from where I'm at compared to where you're at in South Carolina, right? Right. Versus maybe going out to California or the Northwest where I grew up. And so just being aware. And I think really, from my perspective, what it all comes down to, if you boil it down, there's really specific things, you learn over time and you become aware of. But if you really boil it down, it's a matter of having respect for others and being attuned to others, right? If you have respect for others and you're attuned to others, then you want to treat them in ways that they feel respected. And that's where etiquette comes in.
Exactly. And it's so easy and it costs nothing, it's not just about the please and thank you and your welcomes. Really, it's professionalism, business professionalism in all areas of communication. And today, as well as I, we have a lot of ways to communicate, don't we? I don't know about you, but I a couple hundred emails a day. We get text messages, WhatsApp messages. We get them from LinkedIn and Facebook and Slack and all these other ways of communicating. It gets a little crazy, and there's only so much time in the day too. And I think this is where we could capitalize, and enhance the way we work through communication by applying those basic rules to what we do on a day-to-day basis. And one thing, John, I have to say is that we have to be self-aware. A lot of us are distracted because of all these communication styles and deadlines and all the time frame, being on Zoom or Teams or whatever. We lose that human connectivity. And I think this is a great way to really rebrand yourself and your organization too.
Yeah, I love that idea of personal branding, organizational branding, and again, just treating people with respect, the way they want to be treated, and putting your best foot forward. So like not unnecessarily shooting yourself in the foot prematurely in an interaction that you're going to be having with somebody else. Like I have to admit, I'm not a like super formal guy. I like to be casual. I'm not about pretense. I'm not, I'm a professor, but I disdain academic snobbery. That kind of stuff gets me riled up, frankly. I just I can't deal with people who are arrogant and academic snobs and stuff. So on the one hand, I'm like, I want to be casual. I want to, avoid those types of pretenses. I want to avoid snobbery and those types of things. And so my default is to say, oh, I don't want to worry about this stuff. But what I can't allow myself to do is to not pay attention to the extent that it then demonstrate it sends signals to people that maybe I don't care, that maybe I'm not taking them seriously, that maybe, whatever. And that's not what I feel. That's not what I mean. So like if I am interacting with somebody, the fact that I try not to be an arrogant academic, that has nothing to do with them. Like that's me trying to not be stuck up. And it's so I guess what I'm saying is whatever our personal baggage is around this stuff, we have to be very careful not to have that bleed over into the kind of the golden rule of like do unto others as they would have you do unto them, and vice versa. Like the platinum rule, the golden rule, like make sure that you just be with people the way that will be most effective and don't shoot yourself in the foot. So even though like I would prefer that people not worry so much when they're around me. I would prefer that people just be comfortable when they're around me. But not everyone that I'm around is going to feel the same way. And so I need to make sure that I'm there with them the way that they're comfortable. Just because what I'm comfortable with that's not what they're comfortable with. And if I can remember that and I can be attuned to that, and if I can then behave in ways that will ease their comfort level and make them open to me, then that makes me more effective. That makes me more effective as a communicator. It makes me more effective as a leader. It makes me more effective as a colleague. And ultimately, that's what I want. And I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I don't want people to be put off by me. That's actually the opposite of what I want, right?
But you just did this, John. You're a perfect example of that respect. When I first got online with you, how did I address you?
You said, hello, Dr. Westover.
That's right. I used your honorific because I noted that you were a PhD and you respectfully earned that. So, but what you did for me was say, oh, and please just call me John, not Jonathan, but John. And I paid attention to that. And now I can call you John. You made me feel at ease. I use formality as a way to start a conversation, especially if I'm dealing with high level officials or, police or, mayors, governors, people with title that they've earned. Now, you, and not that all do this, especially internationally, but here domestically, you just put me at ease, just by saying, oh, please just call me John. And then I should do the right thing by saying, okay, John, thank you very much. And so you've already brought that level of formality to a more casual conversational element, which makes people feel more comfortable. So I think you're probably doing it and not realizing how you're making people feel comfortable. Now, some academics, some people with rank like military and other government officials tend to keep their rank. They sometimes prefer to be addressed that, especially senators and Congress people. So, it's using it, and then you decide, if they want to stay on that level of formality. Perhaps maybe it's just their communication style, or maybe they're not paying attention to say, hey, just call me by our first name. And definitely in the US, we're more on that first name basis. Internationally, as you're quite aware, that a lot of them stick with that formality until they get to know you. They're not going to tell you much about their family. They're not like our here in the United States. So, but you just did. You made me feel very comfortable by saying, "Hey, just call me John." And then I realized that you're not that want to hold that academic level to a standard of formality with me.
Yeah, but the matter of fact is that for me, that's what I prefer. But other professors, even down the hall from me at the university, might prefer differently. And in fact, my wife, she's also a professor. She literally has an office just down the hall from me, like 30 seconds. She's a woman, and sometimes women, because sometimes they're not given their due for the work that they put in, sometimes, I definitely want to make sure that I'm always acknowledging their titles and that the work that they put in. Now, it just so happens my wife definitely prefers to only be called by her first name. She doesn't want to be called Dr. Westover herself. But I know many female faculty who absolutely want to be called Professor so-and-so or Dr. so-and-so. The point is, it's up to them, right? It's up to them to decide, and it's not up to me. So that's what I have to pay attention to. And that's just one example. Like, there's so many different types of examples of different forms of etiquette that if we just stay attuned to it, then we can put other people at ease. We can make them feel respected. We can help them feel comfortable with us. And then over time, as you develop more of a relationship, more of a rapport, then maybe that shifts, right? And maybe you do become more casual. Maybe you do, move in a different direction in how you interact with them.
I think when we err to a level of formality, when we're first meeting someone, and this I know has worked for me any location in the United States, whether it be a formal DC or New York or down in Florida to California, if I start with a light level of formality, I can't go wrong. People notice that I'm being respectful. I don't do it in a snobbish way. I just do it in a very nice way. And whether I address them or the message I leave on their phone, or when I'm on a Zoom call, how I'm dressed appropriately, or, it could be a business casual type of affair, until I get to know you. So it really comes down to a lot of that. The etiquette is, on preference. But if you start a little bit more on the light formal, you can't go wrong, because then you can pare it down. That's the way I've always found to be successful with my clients, with our students and graduates and our alum, and my trainers, anyone that I'm first meeting or getting to know. But what, it can help reduce that formality too, John, is our facial expressions, whether we're on Zoom or we're in person, or even our voice. Remember back in the day when we taught telephone etiquette and how we answer a phone with a smile, even though they can't see you? I mean, these are so basic, but wow, do they work. And it really helps us be, instead of transactional as a human, more transformational in the relationship side.
Oh, I like that. Transformational in our approach.
Oh,
and something you just said, it also reminded me, again, I don't mean to make this all about international, because it doesn't need to be international at all, right? But, I've spent quite a bit of time in different parts of the world, but in particular, I spent a lot of time in Asia. And many different parts of Asia, but in particular, I lived for about 2.5 years in South Korea. I actually learned the language pretty well. And as you may be aware, various Asian languages, they have different language forms for different levels of formality. And that's certainly the case with the Asian language. So you literally have completely different types of language forms and conjugations and conjunctions and whatnot, depending on the level of formality and the level of person you're talking to. And so, what I learned was you always start at the most honorific, most high level formal form with people you're talking to. And then over time, you move down, right? You move down to more casual depending on the relationship. And some people you're always talking formally with, and other people over time you can move down, just as we did, as you referred to me as Dr. Westover, and then I said, no, please call me John. And you negotiate that, right? And sometimes it's very quick, and other times it's a longer period of time. And that was something I learned, just by nature of learning that language, that it's built into the language, that's how you interact from an etiquette standpoint in terms of that, the honorific nature of that culture. Okay, so we've probably hit that point enough, but let's talk a little bit now more about this innovative piece. So, like, why should HR leaders be prioritizing professional etiquette, training in particular, but really just etiquette generally and how we interact with each other if they're trying to move their teams forward and in this innovation piece?
Well, I think first of all, it helps enhance, team cohesion and collaboration. When we all are on the same page of what is business etiquette, how it's applied. Sometimes people think, oh, that's customer service, which it is part of customer service, and that's only for external, and that's where we can't. It's not about salespeople having business etiquette and customer service on the outside. It really starts internally with our leadership, middle management, all levels. And, I really highly recommend any of the new onboarding, have consistency. Now, of course, leaders have to model this. It's not just, only the salespeople have to have business etiquette or professionalism or whatever. No, every level needs to be on the same page of what it means to the culture of that organization. And I think when you do that, it puts I don't want to call them boundaries, but it puts accountability on us as employees, as stakeholders in that company or organization, whether it's for profit, not for profit, public or private. I really feel that starts with internal. So with my team, for instance, and I might have a small team, they know the expectations I have when they're on a meeting. What they're going to be on time, they're going to be prepared, they're going to be dressed appropriately for the occasion. And even my internal meetings, no, I don't wear a jacket with a collar unless I'm going to have an interview with you, John. But but I will still be what I call show ready. I'll have my hair, prepared, not that I rolled out of bed. I'm not going to be wearing my nightshirt, or no makeup. For me, I want to come presentable to my team to show that, hey, I'm modeling this. And I think, having etiquette training again, some of this we put on the wayside for years because of COVID. You remember how it all started, and we were trying to figure out how to use Zoom or Teams and, how to have that. We saw people with their noses, nostrils. We saw them taking their laptop to the restroom and forgetting they didn't have their camera off, all those things we worked out. But then we focused on just getting that done. When you can do this and refresh, how do you deal with people? Not just in meetings on Zoom, but in, going back to events. Now everybody's going back to events and attending conferences and meetings and training. So I think it really enhances that collaboration when we can put those, expectations and accountability in a way that we would be respectful to each other and then take it outside to our clients. That way the client has that consistency. So when I talk to John, he's going, oh yes, we can do this. I'll have that for you tomorrow by noon, blah, blah, blah. And it happens. And then when he passes us over to the next person that they have to, perhaps work with, then if that person doesn't have a complementing etiquette response and accountability, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to enhance our brand, is it? Well, I don't want to talk to her anymore. I want to just work with John. That's not what it's about. We have to play on the same field together.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, I think about how I interact with others. It matters for me. It matters in terms of my professional currency, but it matters for my team too, because I have to model that behavior. Maybe we can talk about that for a minute, in terms of how leaders can get started, about making a difference for their own behavior, but also investing those resources into their team, modeling it for their team. What have you seen as some of those ways that we can do that the best?
Well, I think HR, especially, in the education and training side, have difficulty. It's internal, oh, it's mandatory, we have to dress this way, or it's mandatory, we have to do it this way. I mean, they get a lot of that push. I think bringing in someone from the external side, someone that has experience, with other companies and organizations, and here's all the issues and the challenges supervisors and leaders are having with their teams, and then also hearing from the teams themselves. If you're conducting training, what are their issues? What are they having? Like, for instance, I did a program for an equity firm, and they have young people, and we talked about generational etiquette, but between them, they're trying to figure out they want to be comfortable and casual, but they understand that the business is an equity business and they're meeting with millionaires and they're, dealing with some high level numbers and clients. And they didn't really know what to wear that would still showcase their personality, but yet make them comfortable, because they like to be comfortable. They like to be, it's a preference, comfortable and casual. Well, how can we plus that up and still be comfortable and casual? Let's talk about that. So, bringing someone from the outside that hears some of these issues, for instance, like dining etiquette, a lot of the younger people haven't been taught dining etiquette in its formality. When you go out in business, mom and dad, if they're lucky, didn't have to take you to 8 different, practices and feeding you in the minivan with the burgers in the back seats and getting you from point A to B to C. I mean, it's a challenge for families, especially with 2 working adults or single parents. So they're doing their best, but there's not a lot of time to teach the young people. And so then they get into business, and then they're sitting with a client that's 60 years old and they're 25. And it's all about the food. Sometimes it's all about the food, and everything's paid for. I get to have all these drinks, and they don't realize they're on stage. And so bringing someone in to do a tutorial in these areas of business entertaining, how to host a client, how do you attend a function and represent the company in a positive way? What do you do with business cards? That was another thing. The company wanted everybody to have electronic or digital business cards. And, they all thought that was great, no paper, et cetera. And there are some positives to it. If it works, and the person that you're doing the exchange with has a digital business card. And some generations, they don't want to do that. They've had experiences where they didn't work. And so I always recommend, hey, that's a great way to have a digital and, be able to pull it in your contacts immediately. I love that. However, there's going to be people that don't have it or don't want to use it. And you want to have a small supply of business cards ready. There's old paper-based ones, and don't put them in your wallet where they're all stuck together and you have to peel one off and it's got dye, leather dye on it. So these are some of the things that an external resource, an educator has heard from other groups and can solve some of those problems or enhance that business etiquette or professionalism in the group, because it's a different voice that has experience with these different organizations.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Pamela, I note the time, which has just completely flown by. I'm going to have to let you go here in just a minute. But before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Well, Protocol School of Washington, very easy to find us, psow.edu. And we're on Instagram, we're on all the social media channels and we have an e-newsletter too, John. So if they want to go to our website and sign up for that, then they get monthly information and of interest. And, all I would say is invest in your people, invest in this education and business soft skills, if you want to call it that, because it's going to make a difference for your organization. It'll separate you from your competitors too, because we recognize it when we feel it. Don't you, John? You feel like, oh my gosh, I have the best transformational experience I've had in customer service. And wow, then we're getting more brand loyal. And we have to be, because it's so competitive. So that's what I would say, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Pamela. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Pamela and her team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.